Hi everybody, welcome back to the Thinking Crypto channel. I hope you're doing well. I have a very special guest with me today, Tom Lombardi, who's the Managing Director at 3iQ. Tom, it's great to have you.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Happy to be here.
I'm very excited to speak to you because we saw the big news this week that your Ethereum fund was listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. So I want to jump straight into that. Tell us about the process there and what's all the inner workings there.
Absolutely. Okay, so highly regulated industry. I'm going to get this out. The thoughts are my own. This is not an investment advice. Disclaimer. But yeah, no, we're really excited to have launched the second public fund, the Ether Fund. It trades on the Toronto Stock Exchange, the main board, ticker QETH.U. Denominated in U.S. dollars. It was the path was really cleared with the Bitcoin Fund that also trades at Toronto Stock Exchange. That IPO'd back in April of 2000, right in the peak of COVID pandemic, and we persevered, made it through. The initial launch, sort of had variable interest. But we have since increased the fund by magnitudes. We're up to, total assets under management of the company is around 500 billion Canadian.
Wow.
I'm sorry, 500 billion. 500 million. Okay. I would say half a billion, 500 million. So we're so proud to have that. But yeah, with the Ether Fund, the path was clear. We knew what we had to do. We had the messaging, and look, I mean, investors want exposure to this exciting asset class, and Bitcoin and Ether really stand above the rest. Launched earlier this week and traded yesterday, and we're seeing a lot of we saw some institutional interest on the primary, but quickly our universe, largely Canadian investors, retail, investing with their registered accounts, retirement accounts.
Wow.
Right now the only way to put crypto in your retirement. So we're just our mandate is to make digital assets available to investors, and we did that yesterday with ETH.
Sure. So it's very exciting. With the Bitcoin and Ethereum fund, what type of institutional investors are you guys seeing demand from for those funds?
So this is really I was living in the U.S. In Los Angeles my whole life, and I recently moved up to Canada to beautiful Vancouver. Yes, a lot of this is to be with my team, 3iQ. My wife is Canadian as well, so that helps. But one of the big drivers of this move is Canada has regulatory clarity on digital asset funds for Bitcoin and ETH. Our two public funds are prospectus-based offerings. That means they are, they under the protection of regulators and full disclosures around our company and our fund. That's really important. That's a big differentiator between other offerings that are private funds or just for accredited investors. So me moving to Canada was to be under a regulatory regime in securities that understands this asset. Canadian investors are very comfortable with commodities and commodity funds, and so you put Bitcoin into that category, and they understand it. They understand digital gold thesis.
Sure.
And so when I think about investors in the U.S., it's largely hedge funds with their own mandate and retail. We're seeing a lot more flows come in, as you see with Mass Mutual made a huge investment and others. But when it comes to products, right, there's a big separation. Wave Financial, company I'm still very close with and a shareholder of. regulated investment advisor, and it was almost impossible to be able to facilitate, advising clients on crypto. And financial advisors and brokers, they don't have guidance there. And so it was, I guess I'm impatient. So I moved to Canada. And so who are the type of investors in our funds? We're seeing financial advisors, many of them. We're seeing, institutional investment because they can, because this is a regulated, perspective-based offering. Anyone can participate in it. It's not exclusive to just the rich and smart accredited investor. It's available to anyone, and it also affords the full protection of regulatory oversight that securities regulators provide, and that's just not happening in the U.S. So call me impatient, but part of my move up north was to get in front of it. So yeah, and then also too, a lot of our investors are coming into crypto for the first time. Like They're really investing in our funds to gain exposure to these assets. Cashing in fiat dollars for units in the fund. Where I think some of the other alternative investments, like in the U.S., it's you see this sort of in-kind redemption subscription sell to retail. We have investors coming out who are really excited.
Very cool. I can certainly attest to the investors here in the United States feel the same way you do. We are impatient waiting for regulations here in the United States, but it's great to hear Canada is well positioned there, and the fact that you're able to do this. I mean, it's who would have thought maybe 5 years ago that a Bitcoin fund, an Ethereum fund, would be listed on a stock exchange? It's almost surreal, but it speaks to how the asset class is growing, and you guys are ahead of the curve there. And I wanted to ask, how are you getting the cryptos for those funds? Are you buying them OTC, buying them on an open exchange? Any light you can shed there?
Yeah. So the nomenclature. I mean, this is what I'm familiar with. This is a passive fund. We're not taking positions. We're not trading. We're not using discretion. For like timing and investment choice. We're simply taking investor dollars and using that to acquire Bitcoin, and then putting that Bitcoin into cold storage with Gemini. If you think of like ETFs are passive, they track an index, and all they do is buy the index. There's no magic. The managers aren't convincing the public that they're smarter than the next guy, or they have alpha or edge and all that. We're just helping people allocate, right? And that's really it. And this is a vehicle to help people allocate. So when we do an offering, essentially the dollars come in to acquire Bitcoin. The details of how we acquire it, we have partners that help us with that, and we're always getting best execution, right? And because we have scale. Clearly, we recently acquired 76.5 million USD in ETH. That was the launch of our Ether fund. Wow. So we're doing that level of execution, and we're going into regulated crypto markets to acquire those assets. But yeah, and then once we have those, it goes to our qualified custodian, NYDFS registered Gemini custodian, which is a really good partner of ours.
Yeah, and the Winklevoss twins, of course, the founders of Gemini. I've interviewed them, and they're doing some great things. So I know they've been also leaders in the space of like adding insurance to all their products and all of that. So that's very cool. Sure. A question I want to ask you, it's probably too early to maybe answer it, but I'm sure people are going to want to know, hey, you have an ETH fund, Ethereum is transitioning to proof of stake. Is there going to be any staking options for the people investing in your fund, or is that it's going to be different, given the setup that you have?
Yeah. So, well, let's maybe back up a little bit. So, when I got into crypto in 2015, at the right was the summer of the Ethereum launch, summer of 15, if I recall. gosh, that was I invested in Bitcoin to learn, but like Ethereum opened my eyes as to like what is the opportunity in the world for trustless transactions, and how can we use these smart contracts to facilitate commerce and trade and everything that Ethereum brings. And then I spent some time at the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance in 2018. Got to know some of the large companies utilizing the technology and understanding what their applications are, what their trouble, what their problem sets were. So when so kind of coming full circle, understanding Ethereum, we have an upgrade coming, and it's a very big upgrade. You might even, upgrade might not even cover, what's going to happen. I mean, this is an entire transition. So if you think about staking assets today, right? Let's walk through what that would look like. You take your ETH, you stake, you deposit to the deposit contract, and it's locked. It's there until phase 1.5 at least of the upgrade, and we will likely see applications running on it at phase 2, and that is estimated by consensus to be 2 years.
Right.
Let's back up. We also estimated that ETH2. We also estimated in the year 2017 that ETH2 was going to happen in 2018, right? So, and then it was 19, right? And now we're here. I'm glad that we made progress, but let's think about timing. Yeah. So assets that are going to stake in ETH2 today have a minimum lockup period of 2 years. No one's going to dispute that. That's why it's public. Our ETH fund has a redemption program. If you want to, instead of selling your units in the open market, you can come back to the issuer and redeem for money or ETH back. We wouldn't be able to facilitate those redemptions if it's locked in a contract for 2 years. And then we also have to think about custody. What is the custodial arrangement? I mean, you're basically posting it to this next generation. You're posting it to the beacon chain that is developed. Gosh, I mean, I'm so excited about this, but I'm also I used to be a credit analyst. So I think about risk management, what could go wrong, and the plethora of things that would come under concern. It really brings up the idea around where are our investors' assets? And I have to justify this, basically beta version of something in the future. I'm not going to put investor assets there, right? So there's kind of this custody hurdle, but there's really this timeline that presents really no option for us in the short term. In the long term, I mean, it's we want to see how it develops, and we want to do what's best for investors.
Absolutely. So I want to talk a bit about Bitcoin and, all of the capitulation, the realization, the enlightenment that's been taking place, where we're seeing MassMutual, PayPal, we're seeing Paul Tudor Jones, Stanley Druckenmiller. It seems like everybody's coming out of the woodwork now, and it's like Bitcoin. Okay, we got to get into the Bitcoin to fight against the inflation, MicroStrategy, all those folks. Tell me about your perspective as you're seeing all of these things happen.
Yeah, no, it's just it gives me goosebumps. It really does. Everything we've been working towards. If you've been in the space for, more than 3 years, I've been in there for, almost 6, where, this type of 2017 was very exciting, but it didn't have the tangible kind of momentum, and not even momentum. It didn't have the here and now feeling, right? It was always sort of a VC bet on some future universe where, digital money flies to the sky. And people were making bets on that. But today we sit here and see these people allocating in a really big way. And Paul Tudor Jones, or any individual, Jim Cramer, or, the gentleman from BlackRock, it wasn't yesterday they woke up and said,
Yeah.
Numbers on the screen flying. Let's learn about this thing and let's do it. Like someone planted a seed in their knowledge set months, if not years ago, and it's been festering and been following, and they've been watching the numbers on the screen, and now it becomes too important to avoid, right? I think we're getting to that lead time of like real allocators who have been thinking about that are now kind of coming out of the closet, right? And saying, listen, I have conviction and I have capital. And so, you know, and Michael Saylor is like he's an angel to our space. And, you know, and not only how he's allocating and the amount of what he's allocating, but the words that the way he talks, it's so genuine, it's so organic, and it's so inspiring. So there's the investment side, and you know what? Sometimes it's like numbers on the screen become too lucrative to avoid, and sometimes people are just like, you know, it's another ticker, like buy it on the technicals, right? That's happening. But what you referenced, where I'm really excited, something like PayPal, right? I look at PayPal and I say, okay, great, 330 million customers. They can buy, sell, trade, you know, crypto. Awesome. But here's where I think it's going to be super impactful. Early next year, they're going to allow merchants to pay and to accept crypto as payment for goods. Now think about this scenario. People who wanted to invest in crypto already did, right? Mm-hmm. Done. But now think about like the merchant who's selling goods online, who's scraping by, you know, COVID affected, you know, stimulus check beneficiary. I mean, there's a lot of struggle out there. And a lot of these people are entrepreneurs and they are selling things online like Etsy and eBay. For them, if they need to, you know, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, fine, Diners Club, whatever that is, Bitcoin, sure. As long as I'm getting paid, right? Now think about that. I mean, they'll take Ripple if that's how they can sell another good. I don't know if I'd accept it, but they would. But now you have a whole economy that will start accepting Bitcoin as payment just because they want to sell their goods, not because they're about this thesis. Sure. And now we're going to have these little tentacles that crawl through the economy that are going to be owners of Bitcoin. And what happened to you, Tony? Like when you first bought your first Bitcoin or share, it used to be cheaper, bought your first share of Bitcoin, you probably didn't know about it. But then, and it really, it's the endowment effect, right? You own something, so you're going to learn about it. Then you're going to learn more. Then you're going to buy, you know what I mean? It's like, it's perpetual. And so with PayPal, with these merchant services, I really think that these are just going to be like seeds blasted across the world of future evangelists. And wow, like it's going to be an exciting 2 years.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I'm very excited to see the merchant aspect, like the commerce aspect of Bitcoin and other cryptos. And what I've been noticing, and I've interviewed the folks at LibertyX, which are setting up Bitcoin ATMs across the country, and I've been seeing them in malls. Obviously with COVID, not a lot of people out, but still there was a trend there. And you can walk up to an ATM and the average Joe and Jill can buy Bitcoin or Ethereum on there. So it seems the infrastructure is being set up and there's going to be a big commerce behind this, to your point of like merchants accepting it and all of that. So definitely exciting. So, you know, as far as adoption, you know, where do you see Bitcoin in 5 years? I know that's a open-ended question, kind of loaded because there's a lot of different possibilities. But, you know, from your perspective, where do you see Bitcoin in 5 years?
I mean, I could not, if you asked me this question in 2019, last year, COVID, to where are we going to be in 5 years? I would probably say where we are today. I mean, COVID has accelerated things like e-commerce, things like work from home technology, a lot of trends that were on their way, but the communist as well publicized the catalyst of different parts of the economy really pushed it forward. And you know, with something like Bitcoin, the catalyst for COVID has been around what Fidelity calls it the aspirational sort of value, where in the backdrop of stimulus and money creation, something that's finite has thesis, no matter what it is, antique cars or arts or whatever. So that escalated quickly, but and being on the mainstream now. I mean, watch CNBC during the day. It's like CNBC has turned into like Ivan on tech.
Yeah,
it's there is Bitcoin. There's like Bitcoin tickers going across the top. They talk about the price every day. They ask. Airbnb CEO was talking about his IPO, and like one of the questions was like, when are you going to do digital currency in your platform? And he avoided the question, but like the fact that people are asking these questions is amazing. And so, I'm, there's sort of this end game. People talk about what is it? Sort of like the end goal, where like Bitcoin is like, Bitcoin is the reserve asset, right?
Sure.
I don't know when that's going to be, but like in 5 years, I mean, I really see it becoming not just a household thing and not just a, much larger market than it is today. But one thing I'm optimistic of and hopeful of in 5 years is that we have started abstracting away, concerns about custody, right? Custody is a big problem.
Yeah.
I just feel like in 5 years, we will have a solution, biometrics or like personal partition cloud storage through like IPFS or whatever. Like we will resolve upon the optimal solution for custody. So that will eliminate like a huge roadblock. The digital economy that we live in will, in terms of gaming and peer-to-peer commerce and tipping and, all these things will be absolutely enabled by crypto assets in a much bigger way than it is today. So, what I hope for, Tony? I hope that in 5 years, like, crypto is not even a thing anymore, right? It's just money, right?
Sure.
We've abstracted that away, and it just becomes part of your value, part of your portfolio, part of your payment system, and we just choose it amongst other paths. But I think the market will increase substantially. It already is. I mean, you can't even avoid that in terms of money flowing in, but I think if we get to a more digital economy and all these things enabling, Bitcoin and Lightning and stablecoin, we will abstract away the idea of a coin or a crypto. It'll just be value.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Where it just becomes normal. Like to your point, you just have the option of crypto, and it's not,
right.
What is this crypto thing? It's people have already been educated. They're familiar with it. It's not, you don't have to think about it. So that's a great point.
Right.
I heard Max Kaiser recently say Bitcoin is becoming a black hole that seems to be sucking in money from gold, and you see companies like MicroStrategy's putting their money their cash reserves into Bitcoin. I actually recently interviewed the CEO of Tahini's Restaurants, which is invested in your fund, Bitcoin Fund QBTC. So we're seeing like small, medium, even enterprise level public clients or companies putting money into Bitcoin. Do you see that trend continuing? It seems like it's the start of something here where companies are just like, oh, hey, we need to preserve our cash reserves.
I think you're spot on. I'll take that even a step further. And you say like the black hole sucking people in. There will be and is Bitcoin adoption, like not by choice. I'll give you an example. Like a lot of the financial advisors that I talk to in the US, I have a few friends who are advisors. I was an advisor, but like some of the more like, colder outreach I'll get from advisors saying, I have a client that wants to buy Bitcoin. I have to do this for them, right? They have a fiduciary duty to serve their client. Their client wants Bitcoin. They need to get it. It's not their choice. It's demand driven, right? So and then let's take that. We'll get to corporate treasuries because I think that's like new, exciting topic. I will sort of provide a little rebuttal there. But let's think about any discretionary asset allocator, right? And that is a financial advisor, that is a hedge fund manager, that is even pension and insurance money.
Right.
I know for a fact that many of them, if they're not investing in Bitcoin, many are not, they have to justify why they're not. They're getting questions from LPs and clients. What about Bitcoin? So right now, many of these allocators that have to craft the narrative why I'm not investing in Bitcoin. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing or not. And I'm not saying that everyone should completely 180 these life. But I think we're in this transitional period where people are getting sucked into that. And to justify, same thing happens, I will even go back to my days with enterprise Ethereum, because blockchain was so hot in 2016 and 2016, 17 from the, enterprise DLT blockchain. The same thing happened then. Corporate, CTOs, CIOs, tech leaders, they had to justify to their board. What are you doing about AI? What are you doing about machine learning? What are you doing about cloud? What are you doing about blockchain? So that was a good example of they had to have a reason to say why they're not in blockchain. And right now, because we have a lot of really good service providers around custody, with related trading markets, with CME and BACT, and even funds in Canada, we have regulated ways to acquire digital assets in Bitcoin, and now these allocators have to justify why they're not investing. So that black hole is pulling in these allocators, and many of them are converting on the way.
Yeah, it's exciting to see just almost every week or month there's somebody new saying, hey, we're allocating X amount of money to Bitcoin. Just obviously Mass Mutual this week. So I want to switch gears a bit and talk about stable coins and DeFi, which are on the rise. And I want to get your perspective on what impact you think they may have on the crypto market.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that DeFi is a super exciting segments of the markets. Peer-to-peer payments has been a thing, largely regulated, but now we have really peer-to-peer financial transactions with derivatives and lending. And there's a lot of debate around, is it really peer-to-peer, or is it really outside of the purview of regulators and banks but it another thing that's really hard to ignore, and it's such a huge catalyst for the Ethereum community on its own, and for ETH, but stable coins of having this sort of frictionless version of value transfer without the volatility of a mark-to-market asset that can move around. Is insanely powerful. I will say that if you look at the total market of stablecoins today, there's it's a lot in Tether, which has its own dynamic in offshore markets. But it's not really living to the promise that I would have hoped. Right now, stablecoins are largely for staking, for moving assets across platforms, and I'm really excited when it gets into payments, right? Into commerce, because that's where we need it. And so, like Facebook's what is it called now? Diem coming to market soon. Think about the impact that he had in Bitcoin when they announced Libra. That was summer 2018. We saw a huge pop, right? Just on that. And so I think the knock-on effects to Bitcoin are huge, but also I come back to like the planting of the seeds, right? So like if my dad finds out how to send me money through a Facebook app, and then he learns that it's a cryptocurrency, that's gonna kind of, maybe he won't learn, right? Maybe that won't be apparent. But just the idea of that reach and people understanding. I was so excited with the Facebook Libra white paper with like all in crypto, like full crypto, like it wasn't masked as some like private payment rail. Like it was fantastic. And so, sure it has their gating factors and it's not decentralized and blah blah blah. But I think the knock-on effect of something like Facebook DM to have wider spread, it's gonna help. It's going to help the whole industry. And then when you have wallets, you think about wallets like PayPal, right? You think it's a wallet. We think of wallets as blockchain, like it's on my phone or it's in my treasury, but like PayPal is a wallet, and Facebook's going to be a wallet, and these and Revolut and all these others. The more that people trust them and have value in them, those wallets become accessible to Bitcoin-enabled wallets. I mean, it's the story is being written right now, and it's like coming to fruition. And it's just like super exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big believer that these entities and even the government with their CBDCs and whatever are going to educate the masses and prime them to accept Bitcoin and crypto, because they'll understand blockchain maybe better and things can be tokenized and how that's verified and all of that. So I think it's just a complement to the crypto market.
And I think absolutely, and because I mean we built the foundation for it in a few messy ways. But the I hope, Tony, that like people start to kind of like, COVID has forced people to look inwards, right? So like, I'm in my home. I got to make my home better. I gotta rake my leaves, right? I gotta take care of you start thinking about what's really important, my family, right? Like, because we're at risk. And so, this has really forced us to look inwards. And, if you're a macro, economist, you're a macroeconomist, you've already thought about ownership and value and dilution and all these things. But I feel like everyday people are starting to kind of come back to like, what is tangible? What do I own? What do I hold in my hand, right? And so, so I think that also people's exposure to crypto and blockchain, I hope that it propels this renewed notion to be like, like, this is my money, like this is mine. Like, it's mine. It's decoy. Right. But there's something satisfying by like holding this and being like, this is mine, and then understanding like there's only 21 million of them, right? And no one can get in the way of that, right? And so, so I think that us being inside a lot, it's difficult, but like we're really reevaluating like what is valuable to us, and money is on close to the top of everyone's list. Like let's not get away from that. So I hope that the notion of a self-sovereign asset, a bearer asset that has censorship prevention, something that you can hold and something that you can take with you. I hope that some of this education around crypto and blockchain reinvigorates that.
Absolutely. So I want to, end it off by asking, how did you first discover Bitcoin and crypto? What was your first experience? I'm always curious about that. And sometimes, hey, I found it on a forum or a friend told me about it. What was your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an inspiring story. I was running an e-commerce company. We had a lot of payment processing costs. I was looking for ways to decrease my payment processing costs. I did a Google search for that, like page 3 search results. I found Bitcoin, and it was like, okay, let's pursue this. Brought it brought it to my board. They were open, they listened, and they said, no, we're not doing this, and stopped talking about it and stopped thinking about it. Right?
So I know you're holding Bitcoin in your personal portfolio. Anything else you have in there?
Sorry. I have, what do I have? I have kids' bicycles. I have a 529 account for my little guys. I've got a diversified portfolio for retirement, and I've definitely incorporated, crypto into how crypto how it broadens my diversification and my risk allocation.
Well, I should have been more clear. I meant your crypto portfolio.
I know you did. I'm dying. Was that a good dodge?
That was good.
Yeah. So, you know what? I own Bitcoin. I mean, that's it.
Got it.
Yeah. I mean, we've all gone through actually, I take it back. I own a handful of DeFi as well. I took some this summer when I transitioned from Wave Financial to 3IQ. I had the month of July off of work, and I didn't come out of my garage from playing with DeFi. Just like Uniswap,
Sure.
over to Curve, Yearn, and I was writing. What was the one I really liked? Open, the options contract. I wrote a bunch of those. I mean, it's like gaming. It's like gaming meets finance, and it was so fun, and I learned so much. So Bitcoin ETH, handful of DeFi. Yeah.
Very cool. Final quick rapid fire. What's your favorite food?
Favorite food? Oh my gosh. I'm a lobster guy. I grew up in Connecticut, born in Boston.
Nice.
So, my last meal, before execution would definitely be lobster.
Very nice. Your favorite musician or band?
I just, call me corny. I'm kind of a hippie at heart, so I love, Grateful Dead, Fish. But one band is really special. My wife was in the grocery store. We're in Canada. The band Rush.
Rush, yeah.
Is Rush, homegrown Canadian band, cult following. There was a genuine Rush poster with their platinum album, and it was like a charity auction for $200, and
wow.
We won. So in a few weeks, I'm getting this Rush platinum album picture that I'm really stoked about. So I put that, but no, I mean, when I go for a jog, it's it's all about Odessa. I went to an Odessa show last summer, which is great. So I'm trying to get more into getting away from the old hippie, old school stuff, but getting a little bit more electronic. Bands like Humphreys McGee and
Sure.
and some others. So yeah, getting in more into electronic.
Very cool. Favorite book?
Favorite book? It's got to be Securities Analysis. From the I think it was in the 30s. Fundamental finance education is absolutely the best path to start your education. It's hard to. I teach. I teach a class at Pepperdine. I'm adjunct professor of finance at Pepperdine University. Gladly, I can do it remote this year. But one of the things I see with my students is that there's having that fundamental finance business sort of education early, and then expanding on top of that. I feel like some of the times if you miss that first step, then you start to get into trading and technicals and trend following, and it's so much more. I think it's so much more having reason around investment decisions grounded with some valuation techniques, or at least not just valuation, but at least securities composition, the type of securities, the supply, the rates, convertibility, like all these fundamental things. You take that and you expand into these new wild assets, especially for something like DeFi, like trying to understand the tokenomics of like a DeFi token is mind-boggling. But at least if you can ground yourself in something like fundamental finance. So securities analysis from 100 years ago is a great start. I am getting my way through the Bitcoin standard right now. I'm kind of struggling because I need to pick a new textbook for my class in winter session. But Saifedean has his amazing analysis, very good backdrop. It's just a little extreme when it comes to sort of the massive Bitcoinization of the world and what it should do. So I don't know. I'm kind of knocking that around. If anyone has a call to your audience, I can use any textbook in the world for a textbook for a class. I use white papers. I use Reddit posts. I use whatever. So call to your audience. Please send me ideas for textbooks, hopefully grounded in Bitcoin.
Sure.
But I'm all ears when it comes to what my students should learn.
Well, you heard it, folks. Give your recommendations. You know where to leave them. One more here. What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? I mean, Big Lebowski is really hard to trump. We just watched Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, part 4 or 3. But I'm definitely going to watch the original again. I think the original might be a top one. But there's some classics. I could ramble, but everyone probably does the same. But I'll go with, I love hokey comedy. So like Hot Tub Time Machine.
Yeah.
Like classic.
Yep.
It's like Tip Down, First Run. That was filmed in Vancouver. But like I love the hokey comedy stuff too.
Very cool. Tom, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Learned so much about you and 3IQ and the demand you guys are seeing, and certainly we'll love to interview you again as things progress on your end. But thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. And hit me up on Twitter at Tom Lombardi. And you can find me there. DMs are open. But 3IQ, we're doing some awesome stuff. Bringing the most important crypto assets to the public is something that's so important to us. So 3iq.ca, learn there. And thanks for having me on.